Hello, I'm Shannon with Wildflower Cottage. Today I'm here to do a little quick tutorial on these cute little mini mushrooms. These guys you see here are just woven on top of a little wood base that I got at the craft store. Today I'm actually going to use a piece of driftwood that we scavenged on Lake Superior a little while back. So anything really is fine. I'm actually drilling right into these pieces of wood with my Dremel, and just getting a drill bit to match basically whichever size spoke I'm using. In this case, I'm using a number 3 round reed. And just a quick hint, you can use anything to decide the size of these. And this, I think, was pretty much draw a circle around the outside of a Sharpie lid, maybe a chapstick tube, that sort of a thing. Anything works. But anyway, these, like I said, number 3 round reed. I've got 5 of them for this particular mushroom, and I am going to just glue them right into the holes. I'm using my all-time very favorite Loctite super glue gel control. I am a big fan of the gel control glue, so I've already pre-drilled these guys. So first things first is just to get all of my uprights, my spokes, into position. All right, glue those all in. These guys I did give a little pre-soak so they have a little flexibility to them. And you want to drill in just enough to make sure you've got a solid base there. Okay, so that's everybody. Let me set this out of the way for now. And again, this is actually the type of little mushroom we're going to be making on here. Okay. All right. So for my purposes here, I am going to just use a single weaver for this particular piece. Sometimes I might also use 2 weavers and twine. But this is such a little guy and it'll weave up quickly that I'm just going to use one. Now, this is a number 1. Yeah, that one's a number 1 round reed. And I like to use these in the kits because they are very flexible and really easy to work with, especially if you're not used to doing a lot with rattan. And so I'm just going to go ahead and tuck that in right inside one of my spokes here. Actually, I could trim that just a titch down. And I'm going to just do over every other spoke, in, out. And since I have an odd number of spokes, when I get back to where I started, it'll switch to the other set of spokes. So what you're going to end up here is kind of a cute little star from the top. And I'm just going in and out, but I can do a continuous weave with this because I'm just using this little round reed. Like I said, this is a number 1, so it's very fine. And I'm just going in, out, until I get as tall as I want this little guy to be. This guy is probably, what, 2.5 inches tall or so. The turquoise one is probably 3. But it really just depends on what you want it to do. Now, when you're weaving with, anything, this is rattan, you always need to remember that your spokes dictate the direction of your basket. And so if you wanted your mushroom to get wider, your stem of your mushroom to get wider at the top, you would hold these spokes out. If you wanted to get narrower at the top, you can pull them together and make them skinny. You can give it a little twist or a little lean. Which one is it? The little blue one here. I just kind of gave the whole top a crank at the end. But this guy is woven in 2 pieces. So first things first is to just weave up this little stem. Oops, that guy got a little tight. Make sure your weaver stays really nice and wet here. We want to avoid any cracking on any edges or corners. You can always get that wet again or spray it with a spray bottle if you have one. But you see that? I'm just getting this little kind of star pattern in the top. And with my left thumb, I'm kind of putting those spokes and holding them in position. And so if they have a little bit of a lean, this thumb can give it a little push. But keep an eye on which direction those are. And this whole process for the stem is just this. It's an in, out, over and under weave. So here's what I'm getting from the side. See that? So I'm just almost an inch up. And I can show this to you from the side here too if you want. So just behind one, in front of one, and then behind the next one, in front of the next one, and you're just going to keep doing that until you get up as tall as you want it to be. So I'm just going to do that for a minute here. Get that up high. Okay. Now, one thing also I want you to know is that we are not weaving the full length of these. We are going to leave the ends raw because that is what we're going to be using to attach the top to the bottom or the ends of these spokes. All right, so I'll just go a little bit higher here. Here's another fun thing you can do. You can give a little twist in there if you want to, if you don't want it to go straight up and down. I can lean it a little. So we've got a lot of play in that material. Now this has all been pre-soaked, right? Because your rattan needs soaking, so you want it nice and flexible. All right. I'm not going to make this guy quite as tall as the others, just because you don't really need to sit and watch me do that. But I do want it long enough that I can see inside there when I'm trying to get the cap back on. So while I am finishing that up, I have got 8 pieces of number 2 round reed that I'm going to soak. Those are going to be the beginning of our mushroom cap. And then I'm going to soak some number 2 weavers as well. We'll just get those started. Oops. Coil that up for a little bit easier. A little bit easier process there. Okay. And in this one, I am going to use a turquoise after I get going a little bit. So I'm going to throw some number 2 turquoise reed in the water as well. And then I'll give this guy a few more rows. Okay. Just in, out, in, out. If you have that little star at the top, you are doing the right thing there. So this is where I've got whatever that is, probably 1.5 inches or so. Let's check it. This guy is right now, head on at 1.5 inches. So, you know, I wouldn't go much shorter than that. You certainly could go taller. One thing I've learned about these mushrooms is you want to be careful of scale. So we want to make sure that the cap has a lot, you know, probably 4 or 5 times the width of the stem. So anyway, I just trimmed this guy off. You see I've got spokes hanging out here. Some of these will come off too, but for now, that is my mushroom stem, and I'm going to set that aside for a minute. Just give me a little wipe. I've got a little driftwood hanging out there. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my 8 pieces of number 2 round reed. I think these are 10 inches, but again, let's double check. Yep, just about 10 inches exactly. So I'm going to break these into 2 separate groups, okay? So we basically need 4 and 4, and then we're going to find the approximate centers here. Okay, and we're going to make a little T, right? So I've just got 4 on top, 4 on the bottom. I'm going to take those out because I don't need them completely soaked. Okay, and when you start this, you could either use the number 1 that we used on the neck of the first part, the stem, or we can use number 2. Either one is fine, but I'm actually going to take this piece and I'm going to fold it, not directly in half, only because when we add new material, you don't necessarily want to do it in the same spot on both sides. So I'm just folding this in half and wrapping it around the bottom 4, and maybe it'll help. I'm going to try and lay this down and see if I can show it to you that way so it's easier. So half of this is coming out from underneath these 4, and half is on top. So this bottom weaver, I'm going to pull that up and lay it on top. The top one is going underneath these 4. This is the part that takes a little finesse, okay? Keep everybody nice and flat, 4 on 4, okay? Bottom one comes back up, top one goes under, and tucks back in again. Pull them up really tight if you can. All right, now, here's my 2 weavers. This is the bottom guy. I'm gonna pull him forward. He's gonna come back and touch where we started. Top one goes over all 4 of those. And he's gonna pop back out again on top. So we're switching each time we weave. We're gonna switch which weaver we're using. Okay, so I've got 4 and 4, they're flat. So I'll pull the bottom guy back up. And I'm gonna hold him, top one. He's gonna go under 1 more round. So we're gonna do this twice. It's getting a little easier because they're pinched together. So bottom guy up, top one goes over, down the next group and back up again. Right? Pull the bottom all the way through. Top goes around, comes all the way around, back up the other side and on top again. So this guy now in front of these 4, under the next 4. Okay, now we're back. You can see that we're back where we started. There's 2, 2, 2, 2. So now what we're gonna do is split this guy up. And we're gonna now weave under 2 instead of 4. So I'm gonna take these 2, these are nice and damp, so they've got a lot of flexibility. So I'm gonna take those 2 and really pull them over because I wanna separate these guys. We're gonna make this divide on the top and start spreading out a little bit here. So all the way around again, give this guy a nice pull. See that spreading? All right, so I'm actually gonna do this twice too. I'm gonna go all the way around once, get everybody spread out. So trying to keep that as tight as possible down in there. Okay, here's 2 also separated again. Pull them all the way out. Okay, top weaver goes over. He goes over these 2, under the next 2, pulled all the way tight inside and back out again. Now switch to the left-hand weaver again, in front of the 2 that you're just on, underneath a new set. Again, give him a nice bend so you've got some spreading going on, and straight up. Pull that weaver straight up in there. Now we've got a new weaver on the left. That's the one we're always gonna work with, the one on the left. He's gonna go over the set it's touching, underneath the next round, and back out again. Now I switch hands again, or switch weavers again, and I'm all the way around once. So now time 2 is gonna be a lot easier. Just over, under, and out. Here I am again, over, under, and back out again. All right, now you can see we're really getting spread out. So one more time, weaver on the left goes over these 2 spokes, under the next pair, and back out again. Over, under, and back out. So it comes back up on top, okay? So now you can see I've got 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, almost there, 2 there, 2 here. Okay, so now I've done 2 rounds of that. And, yep, okay, so this is where I'm at now. I've done 2 rows of over 4, spokes all at once. And then I split them up and did 2 rows. So they're split up now into 8 spokes. And now I'm gonna do that one more time. And I'm gonna split these guys into singles. So, start to pull those apart again. And actually, this time, I'm gonna let them come up. No, I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna push them away from me. That's probably easier to see. So I'm starting to spread those out, but I'm also starting to give my dome shape. So here's 2 that are together, right? You were looking at that before. Weaver goes inside, separate those 2 spokes, and pull that guy down, okay? Next weaver goes inside and down. That's got a bigger gap, so we don't have to deal with that guy quite yet. Okay, one more. 2 spokes together. So we're gonna take the left one, lean him to the left, right one to the right, so we've got a division. Weaver goes over, under, and back towards me. over, under, and back towards me. So I'm creating the separation. Now I'm getting 16 individual spokes. And I'm using this tabletop with a little bit of pressure to help me start to get my dome shape, okay? So in between each and every one of these, we're gonna do an over and under and out, just like we were doing before. Now, keep separating until these are all pulled apart. Almost there, I got one more set, I think. See where we're getting there? And the goal is to try and get them all spaced, you know, pretty consistently apart, which we can work on with our weaving a little bit here as we go. Oops, I was wrong, there's a couple more there. So keep trying to pull that weaver as close to the center as you can. So get that down inside that notch every time if you can. There's a little gapping, that's okay. It gives your mushroom a little texture. All right, pull those last two apart, down inside, and back up. Okay, so this is where I'm at right now. I've got one row of everybody on its own, one row here. These two rows, you can see they're over top of 2 spokes. These 2 rows are over top of 4 spokes. So I'm starting to get a little bit of dome there. You can see that. Now what I'm going to do is take a piece of my accent color. In this case, I'm using a turquoise, also in a number 2 round reed. Okay, get that guy untangled. Now we're going to switch from twining or a 2-rod wale to a 3-rod wale. So now we're going to weave with 3 weavers at the same time. So if you can look in here and see, there's one weaver coming out between these 2 spokes, one coming out between these 2 spokes. Now I'm going to add a 3rd one. And I'm just going to hold them with my other finger. But now, instead of going over 1 and out, we're going over 2, behind 1 and out. And actually, after you weave just a couple of spokes in, over 2, behind 1 and out. There we go. Now I'm going over 2, behind 1 and out. So if you look at that closely, see, I'm going over, it's coming from the inside. He's going in front of 1, 2 spokes, underneath the 3rd spoke, and then back out again. Always, each stroke, you switch to the weaver on the left. So this guy's my one on my weaver on the left. He's going in front of 1, 2, behind the 3rd one and out. Switch again, 1, 2, behind the 3rd one and out. It's a little harder to do this to try and hold it into the camera than you'd think, but I think you'll get the idea. So in front of 2, behind 1 and out, and this is our new pattern. And this is what creates this really fun spiral, is switching to that 3-rod wale. Some places you'll also hear that referred to as triple twining. So the key is to be going over 2 weavers, or I'm sorry, over 2 spokes and out again. I've got 3 weavers in my hand. And now as I add weavers, I'm almost to that transition again. We're going to start using number 2 round reed instead of, oh no, that was a number 2. Anyway, you can start with number 2 or number 1 if you want something really, really fine. Either one is totally fine. I did use number 2 for the spokes in this mushroom cap. So we're still using a fairly small gauge here, you know. Okay, so I'm almost to the point when I need to add. Okay, let's look at that from the top again. You see that? We're starting to do a little bit of a spiral. And with the number 3, you can see you've got kind of the 3-rod wale. See, it kind of looks like it's rolling from the bottom to the top, bottom to the top. You get sort of a rope-like look to it, because now you're using those three weavers at the same time. Okay. All right. Okay, so you can see here, I am just about to the end of one of my weavers, and he's not going to go over another 2. So I'm going to take a second and just trim that one off so that it's on the inside of my basket. So see, it's going to lean on this spoke here, and that gives it a little pressure from popping out the back. I'll get my new, very nicely soaked weaver ready here. This one is really quite long, and I'm not gonna need that much material. So we'll cut that down to, you know, 3-4 feet. I'm just gonna cut that off. And I'll use that other one in just a second. Okay, so if you look here, this is the piece that ended. I am just going to take the new guy, lay him over top of the spoke to the right, but underneath, you know, he's coming out where the original weaver would have come out. And I'm just going to tuck that end inside. And I'm going to hold it with my finger for a couple of wraps, just like we did when we first started with the third weaver. It's sticking out right now. Wait till we come back around, so don't worry about that yet. Okay, our goal is to get all the way around this guy. All right. And I'll show you what happens when I get back over there. But I'm starting to get a bit of a spiral weave in the top of this. And actually, I thought I soaked another turquoise, but I did not. So I'm going to throw another one of those in the water. In this case, I'm going to use two. I'm going to switch one of my natural weavers to another turquoise one, just to get a little more color in the top there. Okay, so here's the progress on the top of that mushroom. And we're just going to keep going around here for a little bit until we get whichever size cup we are looking for. So always, always, always switch the weaver on the left, in front of two, behind one, and out. Okay? Doesn't matter if you go right to left or left to right. Here's back where we started that other weaver, just laying on the inside there. And I'm just gonna keep working right past them. And my new weavers are gonna hold that one in place. Notice I'm trying to make sure that all of my spokes are still heading in the direction that I wanna shape my cap, okay? So if I really wanted to make an abrupt change here, I could, you know, start focusing on trying to get these spokes to go completely upright, which you can do. You just put more pressure on that with your thumb. I thought this one would be fun with a little bit more of a flare, so I'm not going to hold it really tightly at this time. Now, here I go. One of my weavers is just about to the end again. So my preference here, I've woven past him actually a little bit. So what I can do now, get my new piece of turquoise, I'm gonna give that a quick dry, just a little bit. Okay, so here's another fun way to do this, so you always know where your weaver's going. This is the tail of the weaver that I'm gonna cut out, right? So if you were using you know, material like willow, you just leave this here and trim it off or lock it down. What I like to do is just cut him all the way back. He's still inside there, still leaning up against that spoke. And you can even push him back in a little bit if you want to with your new weaver. Come on, fold down. Okay, there we got him. And now I'm up to two of the turquoise, one natural. You could do all natural if you wanted to switch this out at this point. You certainly could do that. I kind of like the whimsy of the spirals. It's one of those things that I just kind of appreciate in my smaller pieces especially. Oops, somebody got hair in there. Sadly, I'm the only one here, so gotta be me. Okay, so I'm gonna continue with this 3-rod whale. Just a little more, because I don't want to keep you here all night. I'm gonna go around a couple of rows with the double turquoise weavers. Just remember to always take that weaver from the left. That's how you're gonna get that spiral over two, behind one, and out again. Okay. All right, how are we looking? We are getting there. I'd say just a little more. Check your shaping. You can always squish it a little bit if you wanted to go a little more one way or another. Okay. So, just for length of video purposes here, I'm just going to go around one more time and show you how to tie this off. You certainly could go, you know, another inch or more in length of this mushroom cap if you so desired. So just remember, it's completely subjective here in terms of how long you want it to go. But I'm enjoying getting this fun little spiral in. If you look at this one, I only used 1 turquoise and two natural. Now the new one has got 2 turquoise and 1 natural. So I'm see that the line is getting a lot thicker on the bottom there. And that's because I switched to 1 weaver for more color. Pardon me. Tis the season of a little sinus infection here and there. So good day to be in my studio. Okay. Now, I'm going to do this just a little bit more. This side looks a little low, so I think that must be the side I started on. Where's my, yep, there it is, okay. You can see where I started my turquoise. There's the end in there at the bottom. So we're going to weave up to that. Okay. And you can see that these really fine spokes, as long as I keep them very pliable, are really accommodating too, which is kind of fun. So, okay, back to where we started. This is an area that is of concern for people all of the time. How do I stop? Now, in a 3-rod whale, you've got now 3 separate weavers to end here. Now, you could bury these, but we're going to do a braided or a little rim at the bottom. So the rim is going to hold everything together. So don't worry about that. What you want to do when you're cutting here, and you'll learn this if you make this mistake a few times, is that every time you cut a spoke, you want to make sure, or a weaver, that it's resting on a spoke so it doesn't pop out. If I cut this one, if I want this one to end here, or you know, somewhere around the spoke, I need to give it enough room that it'll still sit inside that spoke. Okay? And a lot of times the easiest way, here's where I started. So I know I started on this spoke, 1, 2, 3. So I actually can step backward, clip the blue back to where I began. Then I know those are all long enough. I don't have the wood stove on, so it's not too dry in here today. So these are still real flexible, you can see. And what I'm going to do is just a really, really simple border. But a mushroom like this doesn't need a lot of substance to it. So I'm going to go pick any spoke. I try not to start where I ended, just because then my braid is easier to function over top of that, and I don't have to finish on top of that. So I'll make sure I'm nice and round. I'm going to take any one of these spokes, usually one of the shorter ones, to make sure you've got enough. I'm going to go behind 2 spokes, so 1, 2, pull him behind both of those and back out again, right? Same thing with the next one, behind 2 spokes and back out again. Now the first one I'm going to leave up a little bit because I have to get underneath there again later. The second one, I can actually push it pretty much flat. Same with the third, he's going to go behind 2, maybe I'll, whoops, dropped my shears, behind 2 and out. And we're going to keep going all the way around. Now, you don't have to hold on to these. They're holding themselves down at this point. So I just happen to hold it because there's more space there for my fingers. But keep going all the way around, behind 2 and out, behind 2 and out. And I'm doing this as just a 2-part border. So I'm going to keep going behind 2 and out all the way around. Okay, there's where I started. Those cut ends are here. And we're just folding right on top of those. And now those have been secured also. So kind of a fun bonus there. Keep going behind 2 and out, behind 2 and out. Okay, now nobody left standing, right? Except these 2. If this guy needs to go behind 2, he goes behind this one, and the next guy's no longer standing. So pretend that this guy that's bent, that we started with, is still up, right? He needs to go behind this one, behind that one. So you're gonna have to come up from inside here and back out again, okay? Same with this last guy. Imagine that the other spokes are still standing. So if he went behind 2, he needs to go behind this one. He needs to go behind that one, and he needs to come out again, which means this is his destination, okay? So behind 1, 2, kind of curl gently so you don't snap anything. And he comes back out so that he's leaning on top of that next spoke, okay? So, two things. One, if you wanted to, and I have done this a few times, you could actually cut these off, leave them spiky, and kind of have a fun texture, little lion's mane kind of look with your mushroom. I am going to make sure these are all kind of folded nice and flat, give them a little push with my thumb here and there if they look like they're upright. And now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take all of these spikes that are outside. I'm going to go in front of two spokes. So this one is touching this spoke, 1, 2, and he's going to go down to the inside before the third. Okay? Same with the next guy. 1, see here, you have to look down in here. 1, 2, into the third. Okay? And you're going to, so what's going to happen is every one of these little V shapes, these little diamonds, is where you're going to end up tucking a spoke in. And I'm getting this fun little rim look. So this one's going, if you look from the side too, here's the look from the side. 1 kind of buried in there, 2 there, and here's the third one right inside. That one broke off the tip. Good thing we're done with him. 1, 2, you can see the humps there too. Down and in. 1, 2, down into that little diamond. All right, so here again, if you can't see it, there's 1 hump here that he needs to go in front of. There's the spoke where it comes out right here. So 1, 2, this is the third one. You don't want to go over 3. So he's going in front of 1, 2, and then into the hole after the third, or the second spoke. 1, 2, there's a little kind of diamond shape before the third spoke, and we're tucking right inside there. All right, so I'm just going to finish that out. Okay, here we go. When you're videoing it is when they don't like to go as competitively. Now, if you're having trouble finding a space to weave into, you can cut these at an angle. You can use an awl, you know, make yourself a little space if you want. I am a little bit notorious for using my fingernails for all things, so you can also do that. And I'm coming back again to the beginning. 1, 2. Now what, right? There's nobody sticking out. 1, 2. This will be the third one here, so I need to go in front of that one. Now, if you remember, as we were weaving around, we were on top of those spikes. This would be that spike. So I need to go underneath those top 2 and down inside that hole. Okay, last one. Here's 1 spoke, 2 spokes, right? That's the third. So I need to get in front of this guy, in front of that guy, and then in. Now there's 2 over here in front. This is actually, you have to go behind these front 2. And the diamond that we've been working on is actually back here now because we only want to go underneath 2 of those spokes. And if we do that, we will continue that lovely rim pattern all the way around. And then you can look at this, and if there's a gap, one that looks a little gappier, you can certainly go back and tighten that down. Now you have a couple of choices here. You can trim all of these off. You don't need to. They're inside a mushroom cap. They're not going anywhere. So what I'm going to do is get my spokes wet again on the top of my stem. This little end guy, leave him alone. We'll trim him off when we're done. These guys got a little dry on me, so I'm going to give them a second. But what we're going to end up doing with these is actually giving them all a 90-degree bend. So this is where, like I said, this one is going to, maybe what I'll do is tuck him down inside because he wants to run a little bit. Come on. It would help if I hadn't thrown my shears on the floor. Okay, so all of these spokes are gonna get bent over at 90 degrees. Make sure they're nice and flexible here. And our goal is to actually run those through your mushroom cap, okay? So you have 16 spokes, and you have in your cap, and you have 5 in your stem, which means basically you're going to go 3 spokes between each one of these, and in one of those locations you're going to have 4, okay? So to make this easiest, what I just pick any spot. It doesn't really matter. Underneath the rim, right next to a spoke, you can see there's a spoke right in here. I'm going to make a little space, okay? And then I'm going to go over to my stem, and I'm going to fish him through. Right there. Okay, there's one of my spokes. Now, the next one is going to have to go over at least 3 of the cap spokes, right? So here's 1, 2, 3. You can see that kind of the end, the weave ends here. Also, if you looked at the rim, you can see them. There's 1 down here, 1 down here, 1 down here, which means I need to come up between the weaving and the rim over 3 spokes, right? Okay. So here's my space. Keep an eye on which direction your stem spokes are coming. Okay. Oops, that one broke. I got a brittle one there. All right, well, we'll come back to him. Okay. Over 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna have another space here. All right, so just gonna tilt that mushroom to the side and pull that spoke through. 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna make another space there between the weave and the rim. Okay. And now we're coming around to the back. Now this guy broke on me, and it was actually because I had a bad piece of reed. But I'm gonna make him work. So there was a soft spot there. I'm gonna pull him back through. Last guy, he's a little bit of a sticker. What we're gonna do is kind of find the midway point, because you've actually got 7 spaces here. This looks like it's approximately middle for me, so that's where I'm going. And I need to try and tuck inside of there, okay, and pull that one out. Now, our goal is to slide this cap on these little spokes until you get them, you know, fairly flat, okay? So it's a little bit hard to see with this wood. You can maybe look inside of that one too. But I'm just pulling them all the way down and then trying to center that stem inside the mushroom cap. All right. I'm gonna retrieve my shears that I threw a little bit ago. There we go. Now, here's the fun part, almost done. Now all we're gonna do is take each one of these spokes, fold it over, or these are the spokes, remember, from the base. We're gonna fold it over and tuck it in next to the spoke of the cap, okay? Now, that guy's a little long. I'm gonna trim him off so I don't have to fight with him. And I'm just gonna fold him in. See, he's folding, kind of blending in right above that rim. We're gonna do that same thing all the way around. So just making another space in here. Tucking in. And this would also be a good place if you happen to have a needle nose pliers. A lot of times I'll do that too. Just kind of tuck it in there. But if you can grab it on the inside with the needle nose, that's not a bad thing to do. Okay. So I'm going to keep going all the way around and just folding them over the next spoke and tucking them to the inside. I got 2 left here, including my little short guy. We'll see how he does. I think I want him to go that way. As long as he gets tucked in behind a spoke, he'll be okay. Still stubborn. There we go. And fold. 1 left. He's getting a little dry, so I'm going to give that a dunk. Tuck him inside. All right. That one got a little long and don't want to tuck in all the way, so I'll trim him off. There we go. And let's see, this one needs to pull a little bit tighter. It's not quite sitting flush. It's popped up a little bit from that base. So if I pull him down, tuck him in a little tighter. There we go. Now we're getting there. Now we have our little mushroom. Push all those in, and you are good to go. There he is. Alrighty, let me know if you have any questions. I will have some kits available pretty soon. I'm just going to use the wood rounds just because driftwood is a little harder to pack and do consistently. So anyway, mini mushroom tutorial from Shannon at Wildflower Cottage.